Hey everybody, Breakthrough Health and Life Coach Glenn Hattem here. I'm here with my good buddy Antonio Mathews, and this is the 1% podcast. Actually, the first of our podcasts that is actually brought to you by the Colorado Cancer Foundation. And so I'm excited to be here and share this incredible man, this incredible journey and story. And I think you're going to get a lot of value. So get your notepad out. There's a lot of nuggets here. So Antonio, tell everybody a little bit about what you do these days for a living, and then we're going to go back in time as the way I like to do things. I like to roll back and kind of see how you got on this path and share some of the trials and tribulations of getting there, and express the opportunity that everybody has in their life with what's going on in their current situation. That it could be opened up into something new.
Right. I am. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. I'm in for the last 30 some odd years of my life. I'm in the business of people. I'm in the people business, helping people find purpose and reaching purpose through optimum living and tapping into not just existing, but living. And tapping into the business of people, you don't become effective until I was able to tap into the business of me. And the greatest lesson I've learned is being able to understand that I can't effectively lead people until I'm able to effectively manage me. And so been doing that for some time now. Been doing it since I was 5 years old, but professionally for the last 15, 20 years, man.
I'm sure a lot of people thought this is a professional 5-year-old pastor on the porch here, right?
Hey, listen, I was preaching at the age of 5, and you got to hear my sister tell this story. My sister tells the story. She says it was so amazing to see that whenever he would come out, I would throw on my grandfather's shirts. That would be my pastoral robe or garment, and it was huge. It was big, and I would come out with my Bible, and I would stand on the front porch. And I would just be teaching and talking. And my sister says the whole neighborhood, you'd have 20, 30, 40, 50 people lined up on my front porch to hear this young guy speak. That's where it all started, in the hood of Washington, D.C. From there to the stages of London, of Africa, of Belgium, 33 countries later, it started on my front porch.
And so nobody said no at that time, like it couldn't be done.
Oh man, listen, nobody told me no, because it was a unique gift to have somebody that young, that charismatic. Not saying I was good, but that charismatic and that unafraid of people. Like, I've never been afraid of people. People ask me all the time, even now when I'm going, whether I'm talking before thousands or hundreds, do you get nervous? I said, no. I said, because life has prepared me for this moment. Right. And when life prepares you for moments that you were destined for, you relish in it and you take the opportunity and you be as impactful as you can to change somebody's life, whether it's bringing somebody to tears and having that shift in their existence to where the light bulb comes on. If I can wake you up, as my professor says, an ontological awakening, that means an awakening to my original divine self. If I can awaken that person, I've done my job.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So I'm 50 years old, and a lot of my work as a coach, is helping folks find their purpose. And so at a young age, it was very clear.
Right.
Your calling, your truth, your voice.
Absolutely.
Like you didn't have all this baggage stacked up on you that you had to remove to get out of the way of God's source moving through you, speaking.
Wow. But the baggage came.
The baggage came.
There are pros and there are cons to finding your calling early. Yeah. Because when you're that early, you don't know who you are. Right. So what you begin to do is you operate in a gift, but that gift is mimicking what you see. So I became a person who knew I was gifted and who knew I had purpose, but I began to function in the identity of those I admired. And so you are
start modeling.
Yeah, so I began to model their traits and model their characteristics. And then as life went on, the true way to find your authenticity is to really be taken through processes that erase and totally evict what you fabricationally represent. And so I started finding myself through relationships, wilding out, women. I had a child out of wedlock as I was pastoring, through many failures. And I said to myself, I said, there has to be something that's awakening, because I can't be effective to them and help them find them if I haven't found me.
Right.
So God allowed me to get to a space where I was functioning in the call, but I was not fluid in the destiny.
Right.
And so I started wilding, man. I started getting into some things, and that awakening happened when my coach said something to me. Most powerful thing I've ever heard.
Pause for a second. You know you've been wilding too.
Listen, let me tell you, we all have that period where we wild out. But one thing I love about destiny and divinity is that whatever he created me to do and however he created me to function, I can't optimally function until I've gotten through that wild season. The wild seasons helps me be effective in my fluid seasons. And so it really balances out. My coach said something to me. We were in session, and he says, Tone, you're not living optimally. I said, what do you mean? I said, I'm traveling around the world. I'm speaking to churches. I'm speaking in conferences. He says, you're not living optimally. I said, well, what do you mean? And this is what he said to me, Glenn, blew me away. He says, you have become satisfied being the fastest caterpillar. I said, yo, what do you mean? He says, you've become satisfied being the fastest caterpillar. That means you're beating everybody, you're in front of everybody. He says, and everybody wants to be you as the fastest caterpillar, but you're not living optimally. I said, tell me more. He says, whenever you're satisfied being the fastest caterpillar, you are living at a modicum of purpose. He says, every caterpillar has in it the capacity to fly. It's never meant to stay on the ground. He says, and you are happy because you're beating everybody, but you're still on the ground. He's like, once you address every dysfunction in truth that keeps you on the ground, then you can fly. And that's when the light bulb, I started addressing every area of me that kept me on the ground, whether it was ego, whether it was narcissism, whether it was pride, whether it was fear, whether it was arrogance, whether it was people pleasing, whether it was everything that kept me being at this level, I started addressing it. Truths that kept me on the ground. What was it that caused me to be afraid of the heights I was supposed to fly in? And I had to address it. So I started a podcast called Transformational Truth, addressing every truth. And my daughter's mother said something to me. She says, you think I don't like you. She says, not that I don't like you. I don't like what you've become. And I'm trying to be hard on you so that I can get out of you what you've become so you can be who you were born to be. Yeah. And at that point, I started confronting everything, whether it was hard truths or not, everything that kept me on the ground so that I can be effective to the people that I was called to be effective to. And that's where we are now. Yeah.
And we keep running into that every day, right? We get confronted. Even today in the gym, he's like, Glenn, I'm like,
is this what he's going to?
Yeah, he's like, Glenn, I want to look like you. I'm like, you know, I'm a bald white dude, right? I'm like, you're gonna get rid of that fade, and like, so, and I didn't even let you have that, right?
No, you did.
No,
you did.
I confronted it and just said, you gotta own.
He doesn't let me take the easy way out, and he's a splitting image of me. When my staff comes to me, I tell them they can tell me no problems unless they give me a solution. If there's a problem happening at the church, if there's a problem happening wherever, and they bring it to me, and I'm listening, I'm ensuring that when they give me the problem, they've already figured out a solution.
That's so funny he says that, because one of my clients, he actually coined this. You can look this up. Robert Shaw, he's the main guy with Oracle back in the days, and he had even, I think, tagged into his, he was known for this, but tagged in his emails. It's like, bring me your problems, but bring me 3 solutions. It's like, get the work done before you come knock on my door, you know, because you actually have the solution inside you.
You have it, and it's laziness and apathy to expect somebody else to find the solution. If the problem was created on your watch, the solution is created within your watch. And you have to allow people and give them permission to be assertive. A lot of people come in, they talk to you, they talk to me, and they're expecting us to give them answers. I was talking to this one guy.
They want advice, they want answers.
They want answers. Yeah. And I can give them principles.
Right.
And I can give them, but I can't give them answers.
I feel like they want permission to be great. They want to leave the mediocrity. They want to know that the answer is within themselves. But they're outwardly asking for advice or input, or give me the shortcut to the answers. And if you really, as a coach or a leader or someone that's showing up, mirroring in someone's life, you're there to reveal to them the habit.
My thing is, and you're exactly right. My calling is to awaken something in you that I didn't put there. Everybody has something.
And nobody can take it away from you.
Nobody can take it away from you, not even you.
Right.
And my job is to say, okay, I see a gift. How can I awaken them up to see it too?
Right.
It's like that moment of awakening. It's in the book, The Tipping Point. What was the tipping point? What was the place you came to that said, you know what, my life needs to shift? Who helped me? My coach said this: every new space of your life, every shift in your life requires a mentor. Not somebody to tell you the answers to your call, but somebody to awaken you to a call and help you figure out in your context what's the best way to go about it. How can you be effective? I teach people to speak. I teach people to stand before audiences in confidence, to tell their story, and to really help people through it. People ask me all the time, Pastor, what am I called to do? What's my destiny? You know my answer is, what's your greatest failure? What's the area of your life you failed in, found your recovery, found your awakening, and started operating fluidly? What's that area? And when they tell me, I said, that's where you're supposed to be. Yeah. If you're coming off drugs and you're in a space where you are liberated from that and you're living optimally, go find somebody else who struggled with what you struggled with. And you pour into them and say, hey, if I can do it, you can do it.
Because you can't get what you don't got.
You can't get what you don't got. And my calling is to those who feel left out, who feels rejected, who feels like life has no reason for them existing. My calling and my purpose and my destiny in life is to help people who wanted to quit like me, help people who felt they were worthless like me, help people who couldn't find their identity and wanted to mimic and mock their way through life like me, and say, yo, once you awaken to the awesomeness of you, then there's nothing you can't do. And that's how I'm in my space. When everywhere I go, I let people know there's an awesomeness in you. You just got to be awakened to it. And if I leave there with that awakening, I've done my job.
And I feel like your job, you live that obviously as a pastor with the flock.
Absolutely.
But you also, in our relationship, in our friendship, wouldn't be able to exist if we didn't meet the rub on a regular. Right.
Nah. See, you push me to a limit in a level that I've come to enjoy since our time together.
Come to enjoy.
I've come to enjoy. I didn't enjoy it at first, but I understood that you can't create strength and you can't create better without tension. Right. There is a necessity for tension.
Or real relationship, or a real church.
And real relationships and real church. And people, who won't let you be satisfied being good living on the ground when you were created to fly. Man, that's that's the message. Just because you're outrunning everybody doesn't mean you're doing optimally what you've been called to do.
And what happens anyways when you're busy, look at me, I'm outrunning everybody.
Yeah.
What ends up happening? What was that
Ego.
spanking? The spanking comes, right?
Oh, dude, you start operating in ego. How can you be egotistical living at a minimum capacity? It doesn't even function rationally in my mind. All right, you're outrunning everybody, but you're still limited in everything you're doing. Take off the shell of the caterpillar and blossom into that butterfly. Your colors change, your appearance change, your capacity changes. The substantive nature of who you are shifts. Flap those wings and man, say, yo. And look back while you're in the air and says, I'm flying and I came through that. I had a horrific life, made plenty of mistakes, failed multiple times, been in spaces where I wanted to end it all, been in places where I didn't think my life was worth it. And here I am flying. That there is nothing that I've done on the ground that can take away my capacity to fly. And I need you to hear me. I need you to hear me. A lot of times, two of the biggest hindrances of awakening and accomplishing purpose is shame and regret. When you live in those spaces, you only see what you've done, but you don't see what you can do. If you allow yourself to overcome the historical context of bad decisions, bad relationships, bad encounters, abuse, whether it's drug, alcohol, whatever it is, and realize nothing I've done back there can keep me from flying out here. I promise you, your life will get so much better. I promise you. I didn't mean to go off on
Yeah.
that.
Well, no. So like Steve Harvey talks about taking a leap and how each of us has a chute packed in us, and we all got to go to the edge of that cliff, and we all got to take that jump.
Absolutely.
But most people, when it comes to change, it all sounds really shiny and nice, and there's going to be a shift.
Right.
But as you and I were talking today in the middle of a workout, it's like it's messy. The path is so messy.
So messy.
And in fact, like a caterpillar, when it doesn't just pop out wings, it actually gets melted down.
It has to.
It gets completely melted down. Like it has to kind of pull away from the world of distractions.
Absolutely. And if you can deal with the mess, there is, and I hate when I'm on podcasts like this, getting theological, but I'm taking my church through this model called the Kaizen model. It's a continuous improvement. And so I plan for next year, because the church, we've been taught to over-spiritualize things that are somewhat rational and natural. And so I'm taking my church, I said, I want to be a church of continuous improvement, continuous growth. So for the first quarter of next year, of every year from here on out, as long as I'm pastoring, we're going to be teaching on spiritual intelligence. Because if you get a hold of these and master these 4 areas of your life, I promise you, you'll live optimally. Spiritual intelligence, emotional intelligence, relational intelligence, and leadership intelligence. If you master your connection to your higher power, your connection to God, if you master your ability to control your emotions, if you master your relationships and understand assets and liabilities, you'll be a more effective leader in everything you do. And so I'm taking my church through that model, and I was telling my church, I said, hey man, if we get to a space where we are continuously evolving, continuously growing, we will continuously improve into who we are supposed to be, while yet gravitating away from or moving away from who we thought we should be. And so if I'm continuously improving and we're continuously growing, then we can achieve optimal capacity. And I thought I was doing well, but in just a few days of working out with this nut, he's insane. However, you need insanity to become.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Mm-hmm. So there's someone listening to this is going to get things from a very intellectual perspective.
Yeah.
They're going to run it through this supercomputer.
Right.
They're going to compare all the data, and they're going to come to this assumption about, it's kind of like me and you sitting at a restaurant watching somebody eat a meal going like, that food must be good because
Right.
they're enjoying it.
They're enjoying
but we might try it and be like, oh, this is terrible.
It's gross.
It's gross.
Right.
So it's all like experiential truth. And experiential truth is more about dropping out of the headspace that a lot of us live in throughout the day to actually dropping into a heart space. And that's why, like, what happens when someone goes to your church on a Sunday, all of a sudden they drop out of their heads, they drop into their bodies, and they come into the intelligence of the body that is carrying all this ancestral wisdom.
Right. Right.
So I like to use the example of the acorn. You know, the acorn holds the history of all the trees from beforehand and all the trees to come.
Right.
And so within our bodies, all this stored wisdom, and when we can drop into our heart space, we can access a higher intelligence. But we can't do that in our day-to-day mind that's got to achieve objectives during the day. And you can't tackle your spiritual path with the same level of intelligence. And maybe speak a little bit about that in your experience with using these components relationally. Like, you know how it is when you show up and you're like, hey, I'm just gonna achieve these objectives with this person,
right,
which we're all dynamic. And even if you've got this intention, if you don't bring your presence, if you don't bring, you bring your agenda,
right.
You don't bring your presence.
Right. And this is, again, man, theologically, and I hate that. My mental transformation is the key that unlocks your emotional and soul growth. The entity of the soul, the mind, the will, the emotions, your affections. Those are elements that encompass our soul. The Bible says the transformation comes in the mind, and if you allow your mind to shift, the way you were talking to me today, hey, get the I can't out your mind. Get it out. Tap into something greater. Because if your mind don't shift, your body's not going to shift. There's a song that says, my body's here with you, but my mind is on the other side of town. Because eventually, you're going to follow wherever your mind takes you. That's why the transformation process.
Now, which one? So you're like, earlier you said insanity, right? But in insanity, once you get over there, it's more sane. The other's insane.
Which one?
Yeah. It's like where we've been living and what we've been talking ourselves into in that level of mediocrity or good enough.
Absolutely.
Is actually insane.
Absolutely. And I think he's insane. If you've ever seen him in the gym, he's insane. But sanity wouldn't be able to get him the production that he has. You have to have a little crazy. My mentor says disruptive thinking. Right. You've got to be disruptive in your thought processes to knock down barriers and walls that are keeping you stuck. Okay. And so if you don't achieve that, if you don't tap into that, then I think you become satisfied with just being who you are, not really tapping into who you're supposed to be. And again, this whole process, I was telling him today that in just a few days of doing this and changing my eating and changing the dynamics and really getting crazy with it, now I'm developing this level of insanity that I can't be normal if I want to be great.
Can you go back?
No. I could, but I won't. I'm totally focused on the picture in front of me, that whatever is tempting me, testing me to go back, I'm like,
Now
nah.
speak to him. Now speak to him. All right. Now
I was like, yo, nah.
Share the energy you give at the church with everybody. We have the space here for this. We got the house here. You can bring up the volume of, because this man is one of the most powerful, soulful beings I've ever come across.
Man.
And if he can just give you a taste of Source speaking through you,
man, okay.
Don't hold back. Don't hold back.
There's this this guy who, what do you call them guys who do chisel art? Anyway, he was a sculptor. There was this sculptor, right? And they told him, hey, turn this rock into a horse. And he's like, how do I turn this rock into a horse? And so he says, bring me a picture of the horse. This is what the sculptor said. Bring me a picture of the horse. They bring him a picture of the horse. He puts the horse above the big rock, big stone. And as he's chiseling, he's looking at the picture. He's not looking at the stone. He's looking at the picture. And while he's chiseling away, somebody asked him, said, what are you doing? How are you creating a horse out of this stone and you're not looking at the stone to see what you're doing? He says, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the picture and I'm chipping away everything that doesn't look like the picture. And if you chip away at everything that doesn't look like the picture, you'll eventually see what's in the picture. And in this space of life, he told me, get a picture. Get a picture of what you want to look like next. Get a picture of what life looks like for you next. Get a picture in your mind of how you want your life to be, even in this new coming year, even in the year of 2024, 2025. Get a picture of what you want your life to look like and start chipping away at everything that does not look like that. I guarantee you, if you start chiseling and chipping away at everything that does not look like your picture, your life will begin to be lived at optimal capacity, and your success will continue to go and skyrocket through the roof. There is nothing you can accomplish if you have a vision, if you have a picture, if you have the will, if you have the persistence, if you have the resilience, if you have and maintain the insanity and the disruptive thinking, it's gonna get you to the next level. There's nothing you can't do.
So you're not focusing on the rock all the knots, not this, not that. You're not focusing on that. It's like Tony Robbins said, like if you're a race car driver, you don't stare at the wall, you stare at the road ahead, otherwise you're gonna crash into the wall.
You got to look ahead. And there's a reason why the front view and the rear view are different sizes. Keep looking through the front view. Occasionally look through the rear view to see what's on the opposite side of you so you can get over and just switch lanes and keep going. But man, there's so much that you were destined and created to do. There's so much that you were promised, and there's so much that your divine being, God, has put inside of you. You can do it. I'll leave you with this. One writer said, hey, examine your life, and in order to move forward, strengthen what remains. So what do you mean strengthen what remains? Because so many times we focus on what left instead of focusing on what we have left. It says so many times we focus on what walked away from us, what we don't have anymore. He says, change the narrative. Don't focus on what walked away. Don't focus on the relationships that's over. Don't focus on what you don't have anymore. He says, focus on what you have left and start building what you have left. what do you have left? You still have your mind. You still have your vision. You still have your hopes. You still have your dreams. What do you have left? You still have people, certain people who love you. You still have relationships. There is something that did not die in the process. And if you start building, man, I didn't think I still had that. Or I didn't think I still had this journal. I didn't think I still had those notes. Start reassessing what you have left. And I guarantee you, you have enough to get to the next level. Strengthen what remains, man. And do it disruptively. Do it with an insane approach. Do it with a fervor that makes you unstoppable. Now let's go.
Now, I'm just going to put him on the spot here for an encore here and actually ask for, can you bring a little bit of the sermon from last weekend about who you don't take with you going forward, who's not supposed to be with you, and you're not supposed to hold on.
See, he always...
And I didn't mean to make you start sweating.
No, I don't know. No. I was talking about last week, as you're stepping into this new phase of life, relationally speaking, you have to begin to identify assets and liabilities. The most important decision that you're going to make over the next few months is really being able to identify and become fully aware of who's in my life that are assets and who's in my life that are liabilities. If you have more liabilities than assets, you can never move into optimal success. And you can never, come here, lean into me. You can never base your decision on assets strictly upon feelings. Because just because you like a person does not mean they are an asset to you. And if you're basing your assets based upon feelings, your feelings for them can blind you to the lack of capacity and the dysfunctional substance they have within them. So you'll bring them along because you like them, but they don't possess the fruit and the capacity and the substance to give you what you need. And so now you're frustrated and you're angry because you've chosen somebody you like, but that didn't possess the fruits. Don't base your assets on feelings. Base who are assets in your life on fruit. What do they produce for you? Are they encouragement to you? Do they challenge your mediocrity? Do they challenge you in spaces that you've become comfortable in? Do they challenge you in areas that you don't like to be challenged? Those are assets. Liabilities just hang on for the ride. They offer no substantive capacity. They offer nothing to you. So if you're going to be the best you ever, identify whether you like them or not, who are assets and who are liabilities. And I promise you, you'll live. I said this last Sunday, if you have people around you in your circle, business, platoon, whatever, and they don't hurt when you hurt, and they don't cry when you cry, and they don't feel for you when you're in pain, and they're not empathetic to whatever emotional state you're in, then they were just using you. Users can never be assets.
For those deaf, dumb, and blind, how loud do you got to say this for people to hear? Like, what is the point here? Like, what is the message? Like, going forward into 2024, like, who's not coming with you?
Who's not coming with you? People that enable my comfort, people that enable my dysfunction, people that do not challenge who I am to be, and people who are just takers and not givers.
They don't fucking
cannot
care,
come.
right?
They don't care. You cannot come with me. I need people around me who will be angry at my satisfaction with life. I need people around me who know how to talk to me when I'm beating myself up. I need people around me who are strong assets and not liabilities. I hope that makes sense to you. Does that make sense to you?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they listen because they care, because
Yeah.
they feel, and they also bring their wisdom of their experiences to the table.
They have to. This was an impromptu session. We just left the gym, and we just coming off the.
So if they wanted to find you, so where's the church at? How would they find you here locally?
If you are in Denver, Aurora, or the surrounding areas, meet us at our location inside of the Vintage Theater, 1468 Dayton Street, Aurora, Colorado. And you can find us on social media. You can find us on Instagram at The Real Church Inc. or Antonio M. Mathews. That's on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, The Real Church, Inc. or Antonio M. Mathews. I can't wait to see you because I know there's some people out there that I'm called to. Come get it.
Thank you, my brother, from another.
Oh, man. Anything for you, man. Even if it's impromptu from the gym, we sweating, but we talking. And I like it. And his insanity self. Let's go.
See you next time.
Yeah.